That said, if you guys want to contribute to our topics, have any questions, or just want to tell us what an amazing job we're doing, you can reach out to us at 6364252164. So, for this edition of the Reality Bang, we are going to be discussing influencers versus content creators. And of course, we have Johan here with us. It's great to have you back on the show.
Great to be back. Been quite a few weeks, I guess. So yeah, it's good to be back, both of us.
Yeah. So let's jump right into it. So my very first question is going to be now, in your opinion, what fundamentally separates an influencer from content creators, or can somebody be both?
So I think in the end of the day, if you since both of us have already done a live session on influencers, and both of
Yep.
us have spoken about it, a little bit in detail. The difference between an influencer and a content creator is far. The difference is far and few between, right? Like it's almost like it blurs out at this point the difference between an influencer and a content creator. In the end of the day, the it's very similar what they're doing. Both of them are putting out content into social media, into the same medium where they are trying to reach out. Their aim is to make content and engage with the audience, and that is that similarity that they have. But what differentiates between both of them is it's the intent. I think
Yeah.
with what reason an influencer wants to make content versus what reason a content creator wants to make content, that is the difference. I think a content creator's top priority is content. The quality of the
Yeah.
content, it's quality over quantity. So the
Yeah.
quality is the number one priority for them, and it is you can say niche or it's sometimes wide audience. If a content creator is trying to reach to a wider audience, let's say like entertaining, for example, or something, and you have a lot of these comedians who started out as content creators, right? Like My
Yeah.
Life, My Rules, and all of these. A lot of the Abhishek Kumar and a lot of these
Yeah.
comedians, were putting out. They started out as content creators, putting comedy like reels, and now they've become big comedians at this point. And they reach, and their audience itself, it is not a very niche audience, but it is an audience who like sense of humor, which I'm sure everybody does. So it's a big market that they pick. But then you have another content creator who's like a tech sort of a content creator, right? He's
Yeah.
even if you take the world of tech, they're specifically into like, some of them are into music gear, some of them are into like guitars and musical instrument gear, some of them they're into like computer and that sort of line that they take. So the content creators take a very specific sort of a content that they want, and their audience that they want to reach out is to the people who have that similar sort of an interest that they have. If
Yeah.
if someone's like a content creator who's putting out something related to books, the aim is to reach out to people who like that similar sort of a books. But the difference with an influencer is their reason to reach out to the audience is in a way that I think their number priority is they themselves reaching out to the audience. They want to the audience to have a sort of a perception that the audience should come back to them for something, and they want to engage to the audience in such a way that every time they put out a content, they want the audience to connect with them, or if there is something that is coming out, let's say let's just say like a fashion influencer, there's some sort of a trend that's coming out, there's some sort of a cloth that's the dress that's come into fashion, and I think what an influencer's mind intent is, they want the audience to come to them and see what they are going to talk about it. That the fact that content creators, for them it's quality over quantity. For influencers, I won't say necessarily it's quantity over quality. I think it's somewhat in between. But for them, they have that they for them engaging with audience in sort of a way that they want that sort of a trust sort of a bond with the audience, that the
Mm.
audience comes back to them. And their aim is also to do collaborations and partnerships, so that it reaches out to more people. There's more that is wider audience that they get. For content creators, they don't really necessarily look into that. For them, if they get that and an opportunity for them to grow for their own career, or their content, they will definitely go for that. But they don't look out for it as much as an influencer would. So I feel like an influencer is a type of a content creator, but I don't think all content creators are influencers. And I think it goes the other way around as well. I don't think, necessarily an influencer has to be a content creator, right? It can be a celebrity
Yeah.
as well at this point. Like last time you mentioned, right? Like what are the type of influencers? Is one is the micro, the macro influencers, that in some way or
Yeah.
the other you can say that the content creators come into that sort of a line, like they're picking a
Mm.
niche audience, a niche topic, a niche subject. They probably have 10K followers, but they have such loyal followers that the followers will go back at them. There is almost like 60 to 70% of engagement with the audience, that they have. And you that's a huge margin compared to someone who has 1 million followers. For them it's like 10% sometimes, and for having 60-70% of an engagement is massive. And then there
Yeah.
is micro, right, who is so my oh sorry, I think, sorry, I got
Yeah. The
confused.
micro was the first one which you just told. Now
Micro was the
macro is
first
the
one.
yeah.
No, I went the other way around. Sorry, I'll just go back. Nano. Nano is the ones with niche audience, with niche subjects that they pick, and very niche topics. These are the people that I was talking about. Micro is people with 100,000, and I think these people, they are the influencers or content creators. It somewhat blurs out for them. It's maybe a yes or no. Macro
Yeah.
influencers are the ones with 1 million, 2 million followers, and they are
Mm.
almost one step away from celebrities. And then you have like celebrities and all of them who become indirectly influencers.
Yeah. So, moving on to the next question now, is there a difference between the influencer and the content creator based on what they do, like, or rather, how would their audience perceive them?
What they will do, like I already mentioned, what they do, what they want, they in the end of the day putting out the content. But the audience perception, I think that is one of the main things that will divide them into if they're a content creator or if they're not. The audience perception is what they want. I think if the
Yeah.
audience is looking at this one person as someone, that they're looking after for some sort of recommendation, or there is some, let's say, someone who's like heavily into like music gears and something, and there is one
Mm.
specific person who's into like gears and music gears, and they're putting out, I think, if the person is specifically going to YouTube and they wants to know this person's opinion about this certain earbuds that have just come out, I think in some way or the other you can consider them influencers. Even if they don't look at them as influencers, I think in some way or the other they end up becoming influencers, because that is exactly what an influencer wants, right? An influencer wants the audience to come back to them and engage with them in such a way that that whatever sort of content that they're putting out, it is something the audience is specifically going to that sort of a person. Where
Yeah.
for an influence I think for an influencer it is that sort of a the content that they're putting, more than the content, it is that person itself, that go is more prioritized over the content. That's where the audience, more than the content, if they want to, it's the person that they that they're moving towards to know about the product. That's where I think they end up becoming influencers. Content creators, if I think if they like specific, let's just say, if content creators who put out something about food, and I think
Mm.
if an audience is interested in just food, who just like watching reels about food and how this food is sort of made, I think they end up becoming content creators. And I think for them it's the content that they are looking after, that they were thriving towards the next week after week. It's that sort of a food content that they are really craving and they want to go for. But then you have some sort of a chef who really puts out really good recipes, on Instagram. I think that's where
Yeah.
the differentiation comes. When the person goes online searching for, is more interested towards what kind of food is being made, how the food is being made, and the quick cuts and the edits, those stuff is something that it's like a dopamine effect for them, and they go for that. But if it's an influencer, I think the audience wants to know the recipe, how they're telling it, how they're the tips that they're giving, and those things matter to them. So I think that's the sort of a difference to find out how the audience perception is. If the perception itself is the content, I think then it's the they can be content creators. But if the audience is going towards like the person itself, I think they end up becoming influencers in that way.
Yeah. So now who has a greater impact? Like, is it somebody who has a small following but a loyal audience, which is the content creator, obviously, or someone with a mass reach, which is the influencer?
I think impact. If you're going to particularly talk about impact and sort of like how much it's reaching out, it is obviously it is influences, right? Because they are their aim is to reach out to the audience. It's to grow a wide sort of a network, who the and sort of an engagement with brand partnerships and collaborations. These are things that they particularly go for. Sometimes content creators, for them, if for them, they also might end up becoming influencers. That's the thing. I think
Yeah.
content creators can end up becoming influencers, but the thing is, I think if someone comes for a partnership or a collaboration with them, if for them it affects their quality of the content or what sort of content it's putting out, there's a high chance these content creators will even tell no to them. But
Mm.
for an influencer, for them that collaboration is very important. They're willing to negotiate, so that they're willing to negotiate whatever sort of a partnership they're having, because they know that small negotiation can help them reach out to so many other people, and that's what they want as well. So
Yeah.
so I think that's like the thing, right? Like when if you're talking about impact, a content creator's aim is not. I don't think it's about how many people, but it's how much they have learned and educated. So, I think that is what a content creator's aim is. I think whatever content he's putting out, if let's say even 80% of what he's trying to communicate, if the audience gets it exactly what they want, I think that itself is I think that's what the content creators want. I think even if they have, like, let's say 5K views, and if those people have seen it, they should be convinced 100%. The communication should be there with them 100%, that they've been able to understand. But with an influencer, I think the impact is how many people have reached out, how many people have uh, have knowledge about it, and know, like, let's say some sort of
Mm.
a trend that's happening, or let's say some sort of an awareness that's coming out, which will have a bigger impact, obviously the one with the larger audience, and that's an influencer, right? What
Yeah.
an influencer can help in that sort of a moment. But let's say some movie is coming out and someone wants to know what's the movie about. You have a content creator online who puts out the reviews of that. I think at that time it is more than how many people. I think they are That's where I think the content creator's impact will come, because
Yeah.
they can have much lesser views than the person, but the kind of content that they're putting out is so directly, it's connecting to that the audience, because that's exactly what they want. So I think they're able to understand. So I think it's in terms of an impact, I think for a content creator, it's how much they've been able to communicate, and how much that's sitting on their brain basically. But for an influencer, it's how many people has it reached out, so that they're able to understand, like, as a wider audience, as a community, how they've reached out. That's the sort of an impact that they look at.
Yeah, now of course we know like trends keep on changing from a day to day, monthly, or even yearly basis. Now we know influencers and content creators do cater to these trends, maybe to some extent. So my question is going to be now: do influencers have to cater to these trends more than the content creators? And also, like, how does each role, balance authenticity with the platform demands?
Do for is it Do influencers dive towards like trend more? The answer is yes.
Mm.
The trends were There's a reason why trends work out. We don't know how trends the genesis of each trend. We don't know how. It's very unpredictable. We don't know how a trend will end up becoming what it becomes, but eventually some magic happens that a trend ends up working out. And
Yeah.
that trend, even if someone's not an influencer, some normal person who's just putting out content with 3K followers also, they also, if they end up following that trend, I've seen them have like 1 million views, some of them. And
Yeah.
these are people who have only 3,000 followers, but because they followed that specific trend, they got 1 million views for that. And I think that's the advantage of trend, that that's the reason they call it trending, because a lot of people are engaging and towards that sort of a content. And that's why yeah, That's why I think influencers will go to that, because they understand its, impact. They understand it will reach out. So I think the ability, your question of authenticity, I think that's where influencers do very well, because I think their ability to stay authentic to what sort of content, that they're putting out, blending that with the trend that's coming. I think it's just an equation that, will reach out to so many people, that's really, what their aim is to reach out to more people, and the trend is helping that. And they're also able to maintain, their authenticity, the kind of person that they are. And that's why trends work out. But for content creators, I think if that trend goes well with their content that they're putting out, I think, like I said, the content, the quality of the content matters. I think trends, they also go for trends, but if it's not something that will, impact, if it will affect their content in some sort of a way, I don't think they'll go that, because for them the content and the storytelling, they look at themselves more as a storyteller, or someone who's putting out stuff, to educate and give people the knowledge. And if the trend does not help them in that sort of a way, a lot of times they may not end up taking towards that sort of a direction. You have anything to say about this?
So mainly like with the platforms, it depends on what kind of platform these guys are posting on. So mainly I know mostly about content creators than I do more about influencers,
Hmm.
because I mostly spend my time on, YouTube, then Twitch, then Kick, and checking out all these what these guys have to do. Now, in terms of authenticity, I don't know, because like you see most of these guys, like of course their content is good and all, and there's something called clip farming, especially now if we talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it. Like these guys, they'll do something crazy or they will do something good, and now these clip farmers who apparently watch all this, they will clip it and then they will, send a link to the original stream which they are seeing, or they will send it to the original YouTube channel, and that gets in, a lot more viewers. And it depends
Hmm.
on like what these guys are doing, because at every like so there are certain stages of these content creators. Now we have something that is very low, who barely get any sponsorships, anything. Then we have something middle, who gets like maybe a little bit sponsorships here and there, and then we have the tippy top people who get like sponsorships from all over. And I don't know, in some way it kind of helps them, because
Hmm.
I think like the reason why these, content creators are really that high, or influencers are that high, because these clip farmers exist. Because
Hmm.
if they do not clip certain things that, help in the publicity of this person, then how will
Hmm.
that person be able to achieve such a drastic, rise in fame, rise in popularity? And even like whatever they are, advertising, say they are advertising some, face cream, or advertising, some gadget or something like
Hmm.
that. And of course we see people coming in and they get a certain, discount if they use some certain code these guys, issue.
Hmm.
And of course sales do increase, so I huge role in, boosting the prevalence of both content creators and influencers to a certain extent.
Hmm.
So
But
should we move on
also,
to the yeah,
I've
no, no,
no, no,
continue, continue.
no. What I wanted to say was, I think the I think in the end of the day, like, although I said so much about content creators that, they value quality over, the quantity, that does not say the influencers don't have, quality in their content. Of course they do. But
Yeah, they do.
because their aim is to reach out to the audience,
Hmm.
sometimes they have to, negotiate with their own sort of a creative process. And even if they don't, if they want to do it some sort of a way, because they know this will reach out to the audience more, even if they don't like it, sometimes they'll end up doing it because they want, because their primary aim is to reach out to audience. So sometimes
Yeah.
they do that. But for a content creator, I don't think they, think much about that. For them, it's the
Hmm.
output that they exactly want that they will put out. So they have that sort of a freedom to experiment how much ever they want, content
Hmm.
creators. And compared to an influencer, in terms of collaborations and in terms of reaching out, I think influencers, there for them it's more of sort of a, if things don't work out for them, it's more of a loss for an influencer than a content creator.
Yeah.
Because I think for a content creator, in the end of the day, If this is not working, they have the freedom to do something else. But for an influencer who's trying to reach out to an audience, it takes a lot more research. It takes so much more, trying to figure out and work out what sort of a content will reach out to the audience more. When you put that much effort, and it doesn't end up working out, trying to figure out what's the next thing that will work, that is so difficult for influencers.
Yeah.
So I think both of them have their sort of difficulties. I think with influencers, the creative process sometimes might get blur, uh, stuff. I mean, like, the creative process might interrupt for them, where sometimes they may
Mm.
not have to do what they can. For a content creator, I think it's just reaching out and getting the exact audience that they want. I think that is the main struggle that they have.
Yeah, like there's not enough flexibility if we talk about it. Like if we take content creators, they are flexible in doing whatever they want, and they can
Hmm.
say whatever they want without facing much repercussions.
Hmm.
I mean, if you're posting on YouTube, of course you have to watch what you
Hmm.
say. But on Twitch and Kick and all, like there's certain leeways which you can function without it. Like you can say something very controversial or even a little bit, and you don't face much repercussions or anything like that. But if an
Hmm.
influencer says it, of course,
They
with
get
their
into more
mass
trouble.
reach, yeah, they get into a lot more trouble, and I don't know, the sanctions put on them, and I don't know, it's just crazy to
Hmm.
see all of this.
So
So,
yeah, I think that's why they have their own struggles in different ways. We can't say one
yeah,
is easier than the other as well.
yeah, both have their own struggles, but in
Hmm.
terms of content creator, like, I'm just saying, like, the flexibility is a little bit more there compared to an influencer, because
Hmm.
I don't know, like for me, if I look at an influencer, I feel like, okay, whatever they're branding, they have to do
Hmm.
exactly whatever the brand manager says or something like
Hmm.
that. They
Yeah.
have to say exactly that. They
Hmm.
can't
That-
say, like, give their own opinion even if the product is bad.
Hmm.
They can't say it's bad. They have to say it's
Hmm.
good because they are being paid to do that, and of course they
Hmm.
have to get it out there. So I don't know, it's just like that.
Yeah, that's why, like, influencers, although there are when it comes to these brand collaborations, things may not work out as ideal as they want to,
Yeah.
but they are able to realize that it will still reach out to them in such a wider audience that they themselves alone won't be able to do. So I think
Hmm.
they look at it from a very different perspective. Whereas for a
Yeah.
content creator, I think this creative process, if it will affect their content, they will immediately, go and they won't be willing to do, a collaboration or the partnership if it's going to
Hmm.
affect the content. So I think
Yeah.
the difficulties for those that content creators is the kind of target audience they want to reach. It takes a lot of time for them to bring that audience towards them. For an influencer who are reaching out to more people, I think the ones they make it, it's so hard for them. Sometimes it gets more difficult the more they climb on top, in terms of decision making.
Yeah, exactly. So finishing off with the last question.
Hmm.
Now, of course, with social media constantly evolving, now, do you see influencers and content creators emerging into like one role, or will they become a distinction, like, or will this distinction become stronger over time?
I think it's already like the difference between a content creator and an influencer is blurred. The line is blurred already, like way beyond, I think.
Yeah.
Like at this point, if you ask me if this person is an influencer or a content creator, I have no idea, because sometimes because they'll call themselves a content creator, but the way that they're putting out their content, it look like an influencer. A content creator, will end up
Yeah.
becoming an influencer, but an influencer won't end up becoming necessarily a content creator or so. But I think it has already blurred the line. But I think influencer and content creation, I think this is, in the end of the day, this has become the future of media, in terms of, in every
Yeah.
aspect, in terms of entertainment or education or what sort of way you want to tell. This has become the future. We're not just talking about content creators or putting out to entertain. We're talking about even like people who are running like an education, like let's say someone who's running just like an academy, like a tuition center. They themselves are out on social media, who are putting out content, because they'll know it'll reach them to more of the audience. And that's why you have brands are willing to collaborate with even like influencers who have 100K followers, influencers who have uh, content creators who have 10K followers. When a brand collaborator goes towards a content creator, I think for them it's how the output comes out that matters to them more than how much it will reach. Because if the brand is already established,
Hmm.
they won't go to a content creator so that it reaches out to more people. They will go to a content creators just to elevate their own content. That's why they will bring a content creator in. But for an influencer, I
Yeah.
think a brand will go so that it reaches out to more people. And the moment an influencer, uh, does a collaboration in some sort of a way, they know that literally the word is influencer, right? So the audience, will
Yeah.
definitely, they have the trust towards that person, so they will go, have the when they promote this sort of a product, they will trust the influencer, and I think that's when it will reaches out to more people. That's why before influencer and all of this, the reason why they brought celebrities to advertisements is because they had that sort of a reach, right? A celebrity could
Yeah.
sell any biscuit and the biscuit will make, say, the sales will go skyrockets. And because they knew to reach out
Yeah.
to more people, so if the brand's intent is to reach out to more people, they'll definitely go towards an influencer. But if the content is the main priority, I think they will go towards the content creator. But I think the main difference why today people are going towards an influencers and content creators is, one, if the brands ever want to like make an advertisement, let's say, it's gonna cost them like a crazy amount of money. We're talking about like in
Yeah.
seven figures amount or even eight figures amount of money. And now, and the nobody watches TV as much as they used to. Even if the advertisements are coming out, it's either through
Yeah.
phone or it's through laptop. And instead, if they collaborate
Mm.
with an influencer, who has maybe 100K followers or 150K followers, and they are also, the amount of money that they have to pay to the influencer is far less, and the influencer reaches out to a much wider audience that they would get through one advertisement. So how much money that they pay
Mm.
for one advertisement, they can pay that to five influencers today, and they will make, it will reach out to more people than it would do through just one advertisement. I think that is one of the
Yeah.
biggest changes that we have seen. And the reason I think why people go towards these content creators and influencers is because the when you see an actor, you're in awe of that person, even though if they are the exact, they're exactly like people like us, because you're seeing them on bigger screen, you're seeing them on theaters, you're not, you don't have that engagement with that person. But their work that they're putting out in movies, you are just amazed by it and you're in awe of it, and that becomes, and cinema in the movies in that way ends up becoming a part of their life.
Mm.
It's almost like that person is one part of their personality. That's why they're always in awe of that person. An influencer and a content creator, on the other hand, they are not in that sort of an awe when they look at that of an influencer or a content creator. Their main aim, when they look at a content creator and influencer, they get the feeling this is exactly like me, because this person is shooting it in a house, or they're
Yeah.
talking exactly like how you would talk, and you have that instant sort of a connection with with that person. And
Yeah.
the fact that these people started out, like any well, they were like anybody like us, and they worked really hard to put out this content, whether they have become content creators or influencers. And you have that sort of connection with them, because their aim was to connect to the audience, and they have connected to the audience directly through a medium like Instagram and YouTube, which is something that we scroll through every single day, and it is
Hmm.
something we consume every single day, every single week, compared to movie which we watch like once or twice in a month. So I think
Yeah.
because of that, people really gravitate towards an influencer and a content creator a lot. I think if they meet a content creator or influencer in real life versus they meet like a celebrity or an actor in real life, they won't be
Mm.
in awe of the content creator or influencer like they would be with the actor they meet, right?
Yeah.
But they would still be as excited to meet that person, because for them they have that sort of a connection with them. So
Yeah.
I think that's why I think influencer and content creator is the future, has become the future already.
Yeah, and in some cases, like I do feel like some content creators like they want to become influencers because all these big time content creators like take a look at the Paul brothers. They were on Vine earlier, and then they came to YouTube, and now they are influencers. One has gone to boxing, and one has gone to wrestling, and of
Wrestling.
course they have their of course they have their own brands. For example, Prime, that is also
Hmm.
there, and I don't know, the way everything has changed, like from
Hmm.
the content creation perspective. Like they used to create content on a daily basis. Like although some of it is just out in the air, it's just like some sort of
mm,
weird thing. Like nowadays, if we take a look at it, and now if we see like they're just not even creating any content whatsoever. They're just doing their own thing as influencers, and
mm,
I feel like their level of freedom in a way has of course been restricted to a certain extent, but because it's their own brand, so their freedom is kind of opened out again if you take a look at the
mm,
world of influencers. And of course we have like various other people like Pokimane, then we have other people, Neon, for example. All these
mm.
people, they are big time content creators, but they're also influencers to an extent. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but that only happens like if you get in, to the very top of the level. If
Mm.
you're like if you're in the mid base or the low base, you won't get, to that extent what these guys are doing. That's the
I
one
think
thing.
that's why just before we end the session, the last
Yeah.
question that you said, I think the biggest impact today, I think why content creators and influencers, they'll have a legit career, they can have a legit brand partnership, they can reach and collaborate with the top people in the entertainment or in the business industry. I think one of the main reasons for that is Mr. Beast. I think
Yeah.
because that guy, I think in the end of the day has he changed the definition of a content creator, right? From people
Hmm.
who are just putting out videos on YouTube. I think the fact that the content creators can be someone who can you can actually collaborate with, or do a sort of a partnership with, and the way that it's reached out, and he's made educated that to the whole world and to the industry so well that today I think content creation and influence, sir, this sort of a career has become what it has become. I think he has a big role to play in that, I feel.
Of course. And
Yeah.
yeah, big time people like Mr. Beast and PewDiePie, then Jacksepticeye, all of these guys
Mm,
who like have like above 15, 20 million followers. Like each one of them like definitely changed the entire role of content creation, and it kind of bridged the gap between a content creator and an influencer, because now the names
mm,
that I've just said, all of them have been featured in various things. They've been featured on
mm,
their own branding. They've been featured in video games. They've been featured in movies as well, like some certain voice actors as well. And yeah,
mm.
so that's what I feel like. They've totally bridged the gap between all of this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to say, or we should we end it?
That was the last thing I wanted to say. So,
Okay, then with that said, that officially brings us to the end of today's show. A huge thank you
yeah.
to Johan for joining today's show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Johan. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And remember, guys, we air on Mondays at 4:30 p.m. That said, if you guys want to contribute to our topics, have any questions, or just want to tell us what an amazing job we are doing, you can reach out to us at 6364252164. And a huge thank you to our listeners for tuning in to this edition of the Reality Bang, your weekly dose of food power, brought to you by FEBA Online. This is RJ Johan. Hope you have an amazing week, and I'll see you next Monday. God bless you.